We're back. T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Darkside. I told you I was starting my podcast. We had Pablo on the first one this year. We got Mr. Brandon Franklin with us today from Power Pole. What's up, Brandon?
Man, nowhere else I'd rather be right now.
Then sitting it behind the transom at T.A. Mahoney Company, right?
That's right.
Hey, tell people, what's your title over there at Power Pole?
I'm the CXO at Powerpole. That's
CXO.
Yeah,
that sounds important.
One would think it would be. For a business like Powerpole, it really is in my eyes. We're all about the customer. We're all about the experience, and that's my wheelhouse there.
That's awesome. I've had John on the radio show with us. I've had the Watts brothers doing this before. I'm really glad that you came out today and could talk to us. You're from the area, right? How long you been working at Power Pole?
I've been at Power Pole for 21 years. It's been a fun 21 years.
And they've been open 25, 26?
Yeah, 2000. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a heck of a statement there. I know John, I think a lot of him. I know we all do. He's just a great guy and constantly wants to look at improving things, and that's how it all came together, I'm sure. Right. Where'd you grow up at, Brandon?
Man, born and raised South Tampa. Lived out there till 2008. Moved
now,
to
what separates the South Tampa people, were you north of Gandy or south of Gandy?
North of Gandy.
So you're north of Gandy, which is a little more humane.
Yeah, that's right.
Back in the day. I know now it's totally different.
Yeah, well, when I grew up there, that wasn't a thing. That evolved. It was all just South Tampa.
Well, and you know what gets me when you talk to people about that? My dad, when he was born, he was in Port Tampa.
Yep.
And Port Tampa was south of the Inner Bay. And now people say Port Tampa south of Gandy. Like it's changed. Well, that ain't really.
Yeah, so when I was there, it was Port Tampa and South Tampa. You had Port Tampa down there. You're right. That's
past Inner Bay, right?
Then you started having the delineation there with Gandy Boulevard.
Yeah, what high school did you go to?
I went to Robinson High School, went to St. Pat's for elementary and middle school.
Now, were you required to wear a firearm at Robinson?
Probably
was it bad back then?
Probably should have.
Yeah, it's gotten a little better, but still it's a different kind of school.
It was good. I carved out my own little niche there, man. I'd roll in my Jeep Cherokee playing Tim McGraw's greatest hits, and we were good to go, man.
That's awesome. Did you play any sports there?
Not at Robinson, did not.
No.
By growing up in South Tampa, man, it was hard to just not be consumed with fishing.
Fishing.
That's all I did.
Well, tell us, how'd you get started in fishing?
Man, just young age. My family was into it. My grandfather, my mom, my dad, just our whole family. That's all we did.
Is that what you did on weekends? They took you fishing, all the kids after school and whatever you were doing, and
spent the summer with my grandfather. He'd take me to Ballast Point.
And he lived down there too.
Yeah, my family they all grew up down there. Went to high school down there.
That's awesome, man. Was Ballast Point a lot different as far as fishing off the pier?
It was. I didn't spend a lot of time on the pier, but I one point in my tenure down there worked for the yacht club, and you'd walk down that seawall behind the Likes property and all that stuff. It was all really good fishing back then.
That's still good fishing back then, but you better watch the bottom. There's some rocks back there when you go to fish. That's a good friend of mine, John Holmes. His parents were back that direction by the Likes. He wasn't on that property, but he had a beautiful house down there. T.R. Young. From Young Pest Control. He's been a good customer for years. He was down there on the point, I think, past the Likes property.
Yep.
But it's kind of unique to see. If you ever go over there fishing in a boat, you hardly ever see anybody else over there fishing.
Not a lot. I mean, growing up down there too, the other big thing was we could just ride our bikes to the Air Force Base and call your friend that lived on base. Parents would answer. They'd buzz you in, and you could go anywhere you wanted. Coons Creek, go down there to the base beach.
And they let you fish. I know for the longest time I fished back there, and of course fished with Jerry Williams back there. He taught me a lot. He told me, the shooting range, like which way it was headed, and when you heard the guy blow the whistle, there's always a few more shots, and that was the time you did your run to get out of that direction. But I ran back there so much. It was after 9/11. I was back in there, and I actually thought there was a bunch of snook feeding off that first point. When you pass the no trespassing sign, the big white sign they had in the center, and you would go down to that first curve on the left-hand side. I saw just white water, and I'm thinking, holy cow, that's snook feeding. It was springtime. So I got a little bit closer, and it was live ammo. And I still think that the Ninja Turtles were tired of telling me to get out of there. And they said, let's get this guy to where he ain't coming back.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I realized it was actually, they were firing and there wasn't no rifle range, I know it was, I could tell exactly what it was, because rifle range, you would hear those bullets, you know, tumble.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you ever been back there and heard them zoom by you. Kind of crazy to be back there and what snook used to do to me. But I think that day was the last day I went to McDill. And what I did, there's two creeks there. One's Coons Creek you talked about, and also Broad Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Broad Creek is closer to the airport, right?
Yep.
Well, that day, they kind of run me out of there, and whether they admit it or not, I ain't going back. I drove down to Broad Creek, and I was in Broad Creek fishing, thinking, well, I'm well away from anything over there, and, you know, and all of a sudden, just a big explosion happened. And I mean, I could feel it in the deck of the boat. Well, that was it for me. I haven't been back to McDill since then. And it was funny because Donnie Bennett's a friend of mine, and he was on the bomb squad in Tampa. And when nitromethane gets mold on it, it can blow up.
Interesting.
So USF every once in a while has to call the bomb squad, because nitromethane in their science department grows mold on it. It's unstable. It could blow up. They call the bomb squad. Bomb squad gets it, puts it in that trailer that you can't destruct. They take it out to McDill and they blow it up.
Interesting.
So it'd be safe. Well, that day they must have blown one up, because I talked to Donnie Bennett a few days after that, and he said, man, we were back there and blew off the nitromethane, which kind of made sense at that time, and it still didn't make me want to go back there. I just thought, this is too much in one day, and there's too much Tampa Bay for me to fish to want to be in here with these guys.
Well, you know, back in the day in Tampa Bay, you didn't need to go anywhere other than McDill or Wheaton Island, Picnic Island. You didn't have to go far.
Yeah, it was loaded. Pressure. Boy, it's not
Get
like
out
that
of the boat
now.
And wade and catch whatever you wanted to catch.
How much fishing do you do now?
Man, it's you know, I get it all the time. Man, you work at Power Pole, you must fish all the time. It is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
You know, thank goodness for John and the high level of innovation from our engineering team. We get a lot of excuses to get out and test product, test firmware and stuff. So
that's right.
You know, your 4-hour testing session, you definitely get some time in there to fish.
Yeah. Well, growing up here and your history in fishing in Tampa Bay, what's the biggest snook you ever caught?
Man, it's definitely over 40. I'd say over 25 pounds on the beach. Probably. We used to do that a lot.
On the coast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass a Grill, Blinds Pass, back in the day before they did all that dredging work. And
middle of the summer, hard to beat Blinds Pass.
Yep. It was hard to beat. You know, it was almost too easy. It was almost unfair at a point.
You know, I'll tell you another story about Power Pole and Blinds Pass. You got a guy working for you named Mike Schmidt.
Oh, yeah.
And my buddy Tangles, who's nothing but a tangled mess.
I've heard of him.
And he's a friend of Mike's also. We all grew up together. Mike's from Brandon.
Yep.
Good guy. Well, they were out there fishing because I'd taken Tangles the night before, and I told him, don't come back out here. It was Blinds Pass, you know, right on the beach. Them fish, just monsters. Yep. Well, the next night I see two guys on the beach, but I can't really make them out because it's nighttime, and I don't hear them talking. Well, come to find out, the next day at work, Mike Schmidt comes up, and he's got this beautiful picture of a big snook. Well, the first thing I notice, and I'm sure you do the same thing, we don't always look at the fish. You look at what's around the fish because you're trying to figure out what spot is it. Because we've all caught big fish, right? But we want to know that spot. It ain't what you caught, it's what I can go catch if I steal the spot from you. So I was kind of just pumping Mike up, and I go, man, that's got white sand all over it. You weren't in Tampa Bay. No. I said, man, that's a nice one. Where were y'all at? And he said, Blinds Pass. And I said, who were you there with? Well, Tangles. He knew he was done then, and he didn't want to take the heat himself. And he said, the funniest thing, Mike, when you pulled up out there and anchored up that night, we saw you. But Tangles told me, don't say nothing. Don't say my name. Don't say anything. And it was pitch black. You know, there ain't any lights on Blinds Pass. Yep. And I sat there, and they definitely got over on me, but a great place to catch a big snook.
It absolutely was, for sure. You know, I don't know. I haven't been out there in years, but
when have you been out there and caught big fish? 10 years, 15 years?
At least 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. How about as a kid? What's your most memorable thing catching fish?
Man, it's got to be, you know, Port Manatee Spoil Island before, you know, you had to have all the flags and the same thing, you know, all this regulation and stuff that came in telling you where you can and can't go. But that Spoil Island was special in the summertime. You know, as a kid catching 50 snook, you were like the man. You know?
One after
the other. Every bait, you just could not mess up. And so that was really cool. But, you know, going down to the Keys, I luckily enough had an uncle that lived down there growing up my whole life. So that was our summer vacation. We'd go to the Keys and never left Florida. You know, I didn't leave Florida till it was on my own dime.
Why?
Really, yeah, just why leave, right?
I mean, you start hunting, you kind of get out of Florida, you know.
That's right.
But fishing, you're in the best.
Yeah, it's the best. Why leave?
You know, I know my parents, I spent a lot of time in the Keys and going with my dad and that kind of thing, catching a bunch of fish down there. But I made one trip to Venice, Louisiana.
It'll ruin you.
I don't go back to the Keys. Now, I have been lobstering. I've taken boats from here, there, fished the whole way down, and then, you know, shoot home. And it's a great place. I'm not much into the nightlife there. I'd rather sit at the marina and, you know, eat fresh fish, that kind of thing. But it is kind of a wild area and a great fishery for sure. And growing up in it, I'm as lucky as you and everybody else who got a chance to go down there. I remember first time I was down there, not the main roads, but roads off of that were shell roads.
Yeah.
I remember being down in the old part of Key West, and my dad's buddy, Tangle's uncle, he actually retired from the I think it's the Air Force down there, Navy.
Yep, there's a couple bases down there.
Yeah, I think it's the Navy, and he was on the ship when they signed the treaty and Korean War. So I mean, there's a lot of history to it. He was a heck of a fisherman.
Wow.
Ernie Saunders, good friend of the family's, and I was able to fish with him and go down there. And he was pretty funny because you'd fish in the morning sometimes and the afternoon, and we'd catch a lot of fish in the morning, and then tell him we want to go back to that same spot, and he would listen to you, say okay, and then all of a sudden you're fishing in another spot. You know, he took you where he wanted to, and he didn't want to fish out all his holes. My first tarpon was down there in the harbor, fishing with a pinfish. Just threw it out as a kid, and everybody was fishing for snapper, and boom, all of a sudden I had a tarpon on. So
that's great.
Some great experiences there. So you got a family now?
Family, yep.
How long you been married?
Been married this year is 10 years. Beautiful wife, can't thank her enough. You know, she's just awesome. She's been a stay-at-home mom with our 3 daughters and giving them the best life that they could possibly have. You know, crazy world to be raising kids in.
Yeah, it's a tough one,
man. It's
you
know, you got to be engaged. It's just, you know, that's the lack. You know, you don't know what's going on with your kids, but you got to stay in touch with them, and they're awesome. I got a almost 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old, all girls. I tell them, I said, one of y'all going to be my son, maybe all 3 of you. But,
you know, it's kind of weird. I had twins, and that's all, you know, boy and a girl, and you know, you never really want to give kids as much of an opportunity to be an individual that they are. I never felt like I wanted to make my kids do something, but I definitely was at the point where I wanted them to experience everything they could, and what they liked is what I wanted them to do. Whether it was softball, hunting, and it, you know, it turned out my son enjoys hunting, my son enjoys fishing, my daughter enjoys hunting and fishing, but overall she would sit in a stand with me 8-10 hours to kill a deer.
Yep.
You know, he enjoys it, but like he says, not that much.
Yeah.
You know, he enjoys the time with me. We talk.
That's
you
right.
know, it's some of the best times sitting in that tree stand, you know, talking to your kids.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They could be out somewhere else or sitting in the back room with an iPad, and that
That's
woods
right.
is a place really to get close to.
It is.
Do you live in South Tampa now?
No, I live in Brandon. Moved out, bought a house in Brandon in 2008. Been there ever since.
Yep, that's a good. I grew up in Brandon. It's changed a lot too, and traffic and people, and you know, but it's still a neat place to live. Brandon, definitely our store here.
Yep.
You know, caters to them. It's right down 60,
Yep.
10 minutes away. When I was a kid in Brandon, 301 was Tampa.
Okay.
Now they still call it Brandon. You know, all the businesses, they don't stop, but it was a long drive to get out to 301 and 60. And now it seems like it's just part of it. And of course it has to do with growth, but it used to be something that, you know, people didn't know much about.
Yeah.
You know, the Carrollwood area, the Davis Island area, the South Tampa area has always been pretty populated, but in Brandon kind of came up later than that, but definitely a good place and good people. Are you in North Brandon or South Brandon?
South Brandon.
South of 60?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we always said, the rich people lived. We were over on the north side. But the north
so you were
side,
right back here to south of Gandy.
Yeah,
North of Gandy, right?
That's right, north and south of Gandy. And I've lived in South Tampa myself. I stayed there just long enough. It was kind of, our house, I remember we kind of outgrew it pretty quick. I did an addition to it, but when a dually and a 4Runner can't fit in the driveway, it's time maybe to look for something else.
I believe it. I mean, that's I say it all the time. I love growing up in South Tampa. I could probably never live there now. You know, too many toys, too many things to put in the driveway.
It's not. You don't get as much space.
Nope, not nearly enough. Not nearly.
What was the drive to get you to go work for Power Pole?
You know, it's one of those things. Everything happens for a reason type deal. You know, it was. It might sound odd, but you know, I feel destiny kind of led me there. I was fishing a tournament with my dad. We pulled in. It was blowing hard. We pulled into the clam bar, put the power pole down, broke our spike. You know, we had a power pole early, 2003, bought one, and I was going to school at HCC at the time. Just started. I was working at UPS right down here next to you, and I was like, you know what? I'll stop in. They're out there in Brandon. I'll drive over there and get a spike. I hear their customer service is awesome. And I walk in there. There's one guy, Robert Shamlin. He's our VP now, and he was scrambling around that place. And I'm like, hey man, I broke my spike. I need a replacement. And we got to talking, and I just happened to ask, like, are you guys hiring? And he's like, yeah, we're swamped. When can you start? I was like, well, we're leaving for the Keys next week. I'll be back in a week, and I can start that Monday. And I went in that Monday, and I've been there ever since.
That's awesome, man. And moved up and put a lot of effort out. I know I've seen you around forever and being over there, and that's probably when I met you, I would assume, because I know we were selling power poles right off the start. I always tell this story, and it shows how stupid I can be, not you. But, you know, John had just finished up. I believe he had a power pole, finished up the design and actually putting it out.
Yep.
And that had to be, if you're saying, had to be around 2000, 2001, right when it started. He had a power pole on the back of Richard Seward's Carolina skiff. And it was out here in the parking lot. And, you know, my cousin, he's a talker. So he was out there talking to John for who knows how long, 45 minutes about this power pole on the back of a boat. And to be honest with you, at that time, everybody wanted everything flush. Pop-up cleats just came out. Pop-up bow light. Acon Industries, if you remember, had all that stuff. Everybody wanted smooth decks with no obstacles, just wide open. So I walked out there and I think I told my cousin if he didn't break it up, I was going to spray him with a water hose, kind of like you do two dogs. And John says to me, "Hey, Mike, I want to ask you a question." He goes, "What do you think about that power pole?" And I go, "You really want to know?" I go, "Nobody's going to buy that." I said, "It's sticking up in the back. Nobody's going to buy that. I can't ever see that working." And I walked in. And that showed me how stupid I am. Because now every boat's got one, if not two. I've seen them I've installed them on the front of boats, on the back of boats, one on each end of the boat. And even manufacturers are building stuff to accept that power pole. I remember the first, and I don't even know who it was. It could have been that HPX, little small Hughes carbon fiber, but they built like an inset in the transom that was the identical size of that's where you mounted the power pole. They had a spot for it on the transom. And that was well before, I think, the brackets started coming out. Because the brackets, to be honest with you, I don't even want to mount them on the transom anymore. It's so much easier with a bracket. The only time recently I have mounted one on a transom, it was because I removed a 6-footer and we put a bigger one on it, and the transom was pretty thick. Another little story for you about a Hughes. It was Ken Cochran's. It was either a Maverick or a Hughes. I think it was a Hughes. And we mounted a 6-footer on it, and it was probably on there about 4 months or so. And he brought it back with a perfect square busted out of the transom. We didn't realize that boat companies started putting just the transom, instead of being the whole width of the transom, it was just between the stringers where the motor was going to go. So we mounted it to the outside. It seemed pretty solid, lasted 6 months. But then all of a sudden it ripped a hole in it. Of course, I'm sure y'all knew about it. It wasn't your fault. I paid for the repair. We got a new glassed in. Everything was fine. But I would have a feeling that would make you want to put that bracket on there and to put all your power.
You know, it definitely makes your installation easier. You know, they're all bent and designed to just make everything perfectly symmetrical. It's hard to get them out at the same height. They're off to the port or starboard one way. You know, it simplifies that. But, you know, back then there was that race for who could build the lightest boat. So everything was built with these new materials. People were figuring out all these skiff companies. And, you know, it definitely, on any kind of transom, we still recommend it now. I mean, we even sell a kit for it on a transom installation, any kind of backing plate that you can put in there, or any kind of support. Because even on a cord transom, you know, you can mess that core up. And
fender washers don't cut it.
No, they don't.
I can tell you that for sure. Well, it's definitely been a great deal working with Power Pole. And you know what I found? Well, most of the people I deal with over at Power Pole, they're all local people. You know, they're just regular people that fish. Most of them you talk to. Now, the Watts brothers are a little bit different. But they go hand in hand with Power Pole. They truly do. They've been, I'm sure, from the get-go when y'all sponsored them, they definitely give you what you pay for. You know, they're two good guys that know the industry as good as anybody.
And highly respected too. I mean, you know, they tell you something, you know, it's pretty genuine.
Now, if it's telling you where fish are, don't believe them.
They're
because they'll send you off to the wrong direction for sure. I get along great with both of them. Brian's a great guy. I kind of jab him as much as I can. Some of my thoughts about them is 25, 30 years ago, I fished against them in tournaments, and I can tell you I beat them once. One time I beat the Watts brothers in a snook tournament, and that was right as they were doing fiberglass in Brandon, I think. They might have been Bartow or something, but it seemed like they were over kind of by that Waterburger area and doing some glass work. And then they got into, you know, these little tournaments, because we didn't have a bunch of them back then. And it was an artificial tournament, snook, trout, and redfish. And when I tell you I beat them, my partner was Jerry Williams, who fished every day on the water with artificial. So it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't the same as me going out there, but I don't
Yeah.
give them that credit.
Hey,
I
take
tell
it.
them, I beat you.
Take your claim.
I've fished against them in the Redfish Cup, and anytime you were ahead of the Watts brothers, you did something. It didn't
That's
matter
right.
if you were 35th
Yep.
out
Where
of
were they at?
120. It's
Yeah.
where are they at?
Yep.
That's what put you up there and really made you feel good about traveling halfway across the southeast of the states to go beat them.
Yep.
Well, you went in the power pole. You went back a week later after the Keys.
Yep.
And you hadn't stopped since.
Haven't stopped since.
So what's your main job there now?
I mean, it's really ensuring that we've got a lot of people now. Obviously, that was John, Robert, myself at the time. And, we slowly added people to the team, and we've upwards of 175 employees. And so
Wow.
it's easy, or it can be easy, to kind of lose that sense of what your priorities are. John really well, the priority's always been the customer, that after sales support. How do you take care of the product? It's not when you have an issue, but how you take care of that issue. That makes all the difference. The guys that work all week to fish on Saturday and Sunday and they've got an issue, what's quickest, most easy, give the option to the customer to what's going to make this best for you. Always own that. And the biggest piece of my job is making sure that stays in every department of our business, whether it's the way an engineer looks at a new product, the way an employee in production looks at that product before it goes into a box, the way the guy answers the phone, all the way down to the way our employees are treated. It's encompassing all that entire power pole experience.
And
that's what I have to live and die by there.
And that's awesome. And you've definitely done it. Power pole's done it. Everybody's heard. You go on any social media site and the public is talking about comparisons and who do you go with and all that.
Yeah.
And never once have I seen anything negative.
Yeah.
It's always, I know with us, and it was years ago, like you were talking about a spike, they would hand us X amount of spikes, 6 or 8 of them, and give them to us. And hey, if people come in and need them, we stand behind them lifetime.
That's right.
And that's been going on almost since you built them.
Yep.
I would say that I've had those spikes here in stock. A lot of times the customer wants to do it. They think it's easy. It usually comes back into us because it's not really the easiest. If somebody's not good with tools,
yep.
they don't know how to properly support that knuckle that holds it, which you really don't want to be beating on that without anything braced underneath it, because something could give by you swinging that hammer. But definitely y'all have done a unbelievable job, and a lot in common with us here, because that's the way my father, my uncle, my cousin, me, we've always been. It's about taking care of the customer.
Yep.
Sometimes you lose being in business. Sometimes you win. Some things are easy. Some things are extremely tough. Dealing with the public is extremely hard. I know, being on the retail end. And it just seems that, and I ain't picking on nobody because I ain't going to say no names, but we've all dealt with Bass Pros and guides, and how sometimes they seem to think that their life is more important than anybody else, and they need it done now. What do you do when you get in a situation where you have 2 or 3 people at the same time needing that kind of stuff done, whether it's a repair or a part? It's just you get a group of you guys to attack it.
Yep. The motto I try to get them to all live by is like, look, let's have some guidelines, but at the end of the day, let's be human and relate to what we're dealing with, right? Like, if you're in that situation and in your head you're that guy, and you know what? Let's help them out. That's really what we do. Right. And win some, you lose some. We try to win as many as we can. That's always the motto. But with a growing product line, and we've got hundreds of thousands of customers out there, we handle them direct, we handle them through dealerships, we handle them all over the place. And social media makes those things tougher. Sometimes you don't get the best representative for your brand that may be out there servicing it. Maybe it's used secondhand equipment, but regardless of the situation, at the end of the day, they're our customer, and we want to do everything we can to help them out.
Yeah.
And we have to just continually evolve. We can't put a guideline in place and that's the way you do it. It's, well, you know what, that's not working, let's see what we can do better. That's really the mentality that we got to make sure we all keep over there.
Right. And y'all have done a great job at it. I've gotten boats in here that I've worked on, and maybe a part or something I got to call you for.
Yeah.
Like on a power pole, and it'll be the second owner of the boat, but it's like sometimes y'all, I'm sure it depends on how long it's been out there, you jump right on it. I've warrantied stuff through y'all that probably shouldn't have been warranted.
Yeah.
Whether it was abuse or wasn't the same as the purchasing guy.
Yeah.
And it's almost like forever it's been that way. It's our product, we want to make it right.
That's right.
Boom. And
as a company that takes a lot of pride in innovating products, there's always going to be the next best. It never stops. Like, how can we improve every little piece of every product we build? And so, you fast forward 15 years, you may have something that looks kind of the same, it works the same, it stops and anchors your boat, but some of those parts become obsolete.
Right.
That's just the nature of manufacturing. There's things that you buy from a vendor that you can't buy forever. And so coming up with programs that allow a customer to maybe, hey, you're not completely out of luck, you may need to invest a little bit, but you don't have to completely trash what you got. You can still use it. You might need an upgrade kit, but you're not out of luck.
Right.
Yeah, it just always looking at that. And I think what really helps, back to earlier you mentioned everyone at Power Pole's all local and fishing. We can sit down in a meeting room, and every single one of us are product users. We all have a boat. We're all out there fishing with our family or our kids, or we've been in a situation at some point in time that we can relate to what we're talking about. And that's really cool to me. I mean, that's the best part about Power Pole. It's all fishermen. If you're not a fisherman, when we hire you, most likely you're probably going to buy a boat soon.
One.
You're going to become one. That's right.
Your hair grow a little long, you won't shave, and you get a snook tattoo on your arm.
Yeah, that's right.
And you're salty. One of the things that impresses me about Power Pole is just the quality of help you get when you call.
Yeah.
And so many people today, so many businesses, we all get disgusted. You can't even call the doctor
No.
and set an appointment the same time you call. They got to call you back. But the communication with Power Pole, and I tell people that are in here, you know what I mean? People that need something or have a question, I said, call them guys over there. They'll tell you what they think. They'll tell you what works. I think the biggest test that y'all have had on your product, there's a few people out there. The Dave Marquette, he can tear up an anvil.
He can.
But it still stays together. The next to that got to be Brent and Brandon Ballet.
Yeah.
Every time I fish with them in Venice, Louisiana, their Power Pole usually is 2 or 3 different colors because they backed into something, hit something. They save all parts there. It's like being on a farm because you can't just get parts when you're there. They put those on, and that really is a test that people continuously rebuild that stuff and put it on.
They do.
And 25 years ago when Power Pole started, I would have said at the time that nothing in the industry could get any better. Like, people that were in the industry really liked the industry. Bob had already built his jack plate.
Yeah.
So for speed and flats, 4-blade props were out, low water pickups, bait wells. The flow of water that we need here on the west anywhere in Florida really, to keep bait alive is tough. Keep Alive was out, air systems, all that kind of stuff, and you never would have really thought that somebody could come out with something that would just take over in the fishing world from right here in Tampa. And John definitely built that. The first time I was ever on a boat with one was Dave Marquette's. And we moved 15 times. We were on the Clam Bar. I'm going to even give you all a spot. We were on the Clam Bar this time of year. And you know yourself, that area over there, Pinellas Point, Brett Norris, all of them love that area. And we must have moved 12 times. And he just popped that thing up, put it back down. We were with the current and wind, kept working down that bar catching fish. And I really, at that time, that's when I said, holy cow. You never grabbed that anchor one time. You made no noise. Silent. Up, down, you're fishing again. Really an incredible product. We got a break coming up. I'm going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Brandon Franklin from Power Pole. We're back. Second half, Brandon Franklin, Power Pole. We're talking power poles. You know, we could talk for hours on Power Pole and the products they make. List real quick everything you make.
Well, you know, it's funny now, we can cover everyone from a guy with a manual spike on a canoe or a kayak all the way up to dual 110s on a 42 Freeman. You know, and everything in between. You know, we got the manual spikes, we've got our micro anchor, we've got the Sportsman Series, Pro Series, Blade Series, blades available in one pump or individual pumps. We've got Power Pole Charge, we've got Power Pole View, we've got Power Pole Vision, and then also Power Pole Move. So
drift anchors,
drift paddles. We've got all kinds of accessories and attachments for the power poles themselves,
which is a great idea. I remember when it was something so simple. But being a fisherman and you're dealing with full moon tides and different currents in different areas that dump, thing makes a huge difference to slow that boat down. What got John or who was it that thought I need to build a trolling motor?
Well, you know, John, everything, it's got to be the best.
For sure.
You know, I think it was the time he started designing that motor, it was just kind of, trolling motors work. They were okay, but there was really nothing great about them. You know, you could turn it on, it would be noisy, it would not be very efficient, it would get you to where you need to go. If you broke it, you had to take it to a service center and it'd sit there for 3 weeks while they put a new shaft on it because it got water in the motor. You know, they didn't have good warranties. They were okay, and everyone was okay with that.
He was probably tired of that process because, to be honest with you, I fished the redfish circuit, and I sold Minn Kota and Motor Guide both, and both of them were in here at the same time wanting to sponsor the Redfish Cup. And it was basically getting down to the point of which motor are you going to go with. And I said, I'm going to go with whoever gives me two. and Minn Kota said, well, we can't give you two for a boat. And Motor Guy said, why do you need two? And I said, because your motors are going to break, and they're going to break at the wrong time. And that was a simple hand control bow mount.
That's right.
Motor Guide gave me two motors, and that's the motors I would keep on my boat. We always kept one in the truck. Middle of a tournament, motor goes out. Nobody's going to fix it that quick. Boom, you'd slap the other one on, finish the tournament. Once we got back to Tampa, you'd send it off. They'd get it fixed. So I see the reasoning behind it, but man, it was like forever in the making.
It was.
I remember the first move that came into this store. My cousin, what do you call the people that you gave them to test, like ambassadors?
I mean, they're just testers.
Testers. And my cousin, he was president of BASS, and he was one that had the motor. So he brought his boat in here one day, and I went to snapping pictures. And he said, wait a minute, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to put this on social media.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you're not. And I said, well, what do you mean, no, I'm not? I want to promote what's going to come out. And he goes, Mike, I signed a paper that said I would not let people know about it. I would not show it off.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? If you sign the paper, I'll delete the pictures. I understand that totally, but really under lock and key, a lot more than what you see like with new vehicles.
Yeah.
It was almost that presence.
Yeah.
You see a new vehicle with all this wrap on it, and they're trying to hide what it's going to look like while they're testing it.
Yeah.
And Power Pole was pretty much that secretive to the guy on the outside. We
try to be. It's especially when you get into something. Power Pole's first to market in its category, but when you want to get in and start competing with people who have done it for a long time,
right?
And you figure out some ways that you can do it better. Right. You don't want to let that stuff out sooner.
I 100% agree, and I even want to talk about that for a minute, because being somebody that's installed trolling motors and dealt with customers for a long time myself, T.A. Mahoney's been here 80 years. I've been here 38, almost pushing 40 as far as working here and running of the business. We've done a ton of installs, and it is a very, very unique motor. Not that you have to even bash other so-called competitors, but a lot of the motors that you see coming out and that were out, you can have two different brand motors and they really look the same.
They do.
Plastic housing, the name's different, but the whole motor itself looks identical to the other one.
That's right.
Power Pole came out with something that, that aluminum housing, titanium shaft.
That's right.
Small head. I mean, just everything about it.
Yeah.
It seems like hit the home run, and it's really been a pleasurable working on them and installing them. The easiest thing is you guys, for the public out there, if you buy the trolling motor and want to install it yourself, those guys are there for you. I mean, you got any question, whatever it is, you're busy working on that. Probably the first company out with 110 inch, I would think.
That is right.
And you were talking about two motors on boats. I have a friend of mine who's a customer. He's a farmer out in Plant City. He bought a Freeman. He bought a 110 trolling motor. I was going to put two on, and he said, you know what, Mike? I'm going to try one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see how one works out. And I'm being serious. When I talked to him 2 months later, he said, I don't need another one.
Yep.
Tommy LaRange recently, he's got a 42-foot, some kind of center console big boat, Invincible or something like that. He's fixing to leave to go up to Pensacola, and he had two on the front. And I said, you don't need two.
Yep.
One is going to hold you in place. And
no, you're right. It there's a lot to do with the shaft. There's the mechanism, the motor, the way we control it. That's really where all the stuff is that really lets that motor perform like you would expect it to when you put that thing down and say, I want to stay right here.
And it stays.
Whether it's a skiff or a 42-foot catamaran out there in the Gulf. And most of the guys that we see with two now, they're buying two on completely independent battery systems, and they're going to the Bahamas for a week. He's got this motor and he'll use it till he kills that battery, and he uses this motor, or they just use it for redundancy. They can afford it. You don't need two, but
right.
If you can.
Well, and that's kind of what with the bass boat world.
Yep.
When you put the Power Pole on, I remember, quite a few bass boat people coming here.
That's
my cousin has a great network, and they put two on, and I'm like, why do you got two on? Oh, well, because you don't know where to set up.
Yeah.
It just looks uniform to have two versus one. And I've seen them all kinds of ways going down the highway with high heels on the bottom of the two poles because it looks like two knees coming up. off the transom. But really, that was a home run. Everything you've done, it seems like, works real well. But the new trolling motor, something that we just come up with, we've been working with y'all. Mahoney's is now the warranty repair.
Yep.
And I made a post and said the lonely repairman for Maytag, because there's just not a lot of stuff going wrong.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine ask me, he said, "You've worked on the motors recently?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we've done about 5 of them or something like that." And I said, half of them were people abusing them.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, one of them a guy fell on and bent the shaft, and the other one hit an oil rig or something and bent the shaft, or they run with it down when they shouldn't be, moving from spot to spot." But really not a lot going wrong with them. But the main thing is, like you said about service, a lot of these other trolling motor repair shops, and this is one of the things I tell people because I believe it's the truth, when they ask me, "What motor would you buy?" And my honest opinion is, the first question I ask them is, "How long do you want to be down?" And they go, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, go into any trolling motor repair shop and you're going to see stacks of motors that are waiting on parts."
Yep.
All the parts are right here in, I guess, is your mailing address Tampa or Brandon?
Yeah, Tampa. It's Tampa.
Some people will call it Brandon. You're right over there, Palm River Road, which is right 301 and 60, basically, that area, seems like you got all the parts. Now, all your parts, are they made in USA?
A lot of them are. There's small parts, moldings, and rubber pieces that, you can't compete. It's the simple fact of manufacturing. There's not even opportunities to get some of those parts domestically.
Right.
But the biggest thing is any vendor, even a secondhand manufacturing, like we try to use Florida, we try to use Tampa, and absolutely U.S. Everything is built and assembled in U.S. There's nothing that's built outside and brought here and then reshipped. It's all built and assembled right there on Palm River Road.
Well, and that's what I've noticed just on the few that I've, we got a worker here named Zeke that works on them, and I'm over top of him sometimes, just seeing what's wrong, seeing what kind of parts are there, because I've never really gotten into one.
Yep.
Like when you do warranty,
Yep.
you're kind of taking it apart and then putting it back together, recalibrating. All that's been just super easy.
Yeah. That was a big priority in early design, was allowing the user to work on it. I mean, if you can turn a wrench and operate a screwdriver, you can perform almost any repair on that motor.
Right, and
that was the way we designed it.
And you walk them right through it.
Yeah.
I've also heard of people being on the phone with you and actually being able to program some of the stuff that you have for that motor to do whatever it is.
Yep. So we've got a diagnostic feature built into really charge and move is the two that would get utilized the most. But if you have an issue, you can pair in with our app, run a diagnostic test, and it sends it right to our tech support department. That guy has all your information, a little snapshot of the problem you were having, and we can then call you and be like, "Hey, start here." And we got a checklist we can hammer through and hopefully have a part shipped same day, next day.
Right, and that's what we have found, that every part that we've had to put in one of the trolling motors, out of the 5 that we worked on, everything we had to get, you had in stock, and we got that same day. So one of the things we're focused on is getting that motor done as quick as we can.
Yep.
And making those people happy. I know you told me off the rip, as long as parts are available, you want it done within 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
We've been staying within that 1 or 2 days.
Yep.
Getting them fixed, and we are going to continue to do that, to do whatever we need to keep that service up for you guys. It is not the motor, and there's nothing today that you don't have to go on your phone and go on an app for.
Yeah.
If it's your vehicle,
Yeah.
your GPS, all that stuff. Your phone is all running through the vehicle.
Yeah.
So when you buy one of these motors, one of the things I've seen, they're not the old hand control motor.
No.
Slap it on your boat, let's fish right now.
Yeah.
You know, you want to calibrate, you want to do everything it tells you, you want to download the app
Yep.
to your motor, and that app is specific for that motor to the customer, correct?
Yeah, so when that customer creates their account, they're only going to look at their products. Now, you can create more than one boat if you have several boats and then list your products in that boat and talk to each boat. But, you know, our thoughts there is there's two ways you can do it. You know, you can either down the road have to buy a component to replace it, or we can put the expense and the smarts into the product to just give you everything as an update. You know, as we add a feature or we change the way a remote works, or, you know, we can add any kind of thing to the product now with a simple firmware update. And so there's a lot of logic there, and it's all built and designed right here and by our engineers to make everything talk and be cohesive in that product, where the end user has the ability to pretty much do everything they want to do with it.
Right. And I've seen that too. Now, I have seen some of the older crowd,
Yeah.
which I would put myself in that
Yeah.
same boat, that aren't as app friendly,
Yeah.
and they don't want to do that. But I can tell you right now, you're not doing yourself a favor. If you buy a move trolling motor, register it, download it, get that thing
Yep.
to where it's tuned in, and updates are nothing.
Yeah.
They can be done right there at the house.
They're super
and,
simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive product when y'all finally came out with it. How long has it been out? Maybe 2 years?
3 years.
3 years
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Man, it goes by quick.
Well, and you know, the whole service center thing, 3 years, you're our first dedicated move service center.
Yeah.
I believe that says a lot about the product, but we really wanted to understand every situation that someone would be through in the event of a failure, and what that means to the customer, what it means to the dealer, the best way to fix it. Like, we didn't want to just rush out there and say, hey, here's 100 service centers. You spent a lot of money on a power pole move, and you took it to one when you had an issue and you had a bad experience. That's not what we want.
Right.
And so we wanted to really slowly roll that out, make sure we had you guys trained properly, and have you confident with the product. Customer drops it off, he picks it back up, and he's out fishing as soon as he gets it. It's seamless.
Nothing was ever said to me, but I'm sure in some of those meetings you had people going, "Are you sure you want Mike Mahoney?"
Mike Schmidt remembered that grief you gave him about that picture. He might have.
Yeah, if he would have thought about that big snook, he said, "What if somebody else like that fishing one of Mike's spots?"
Yeah.
But we got Zeke on it, so anybody out there that needs help,
he's phenomenal. He's a great guy,
and just eager to learn. You know, some of the things that I can tell y'all, I've gone into installing something, whether it's a move trolling motor or a power pole, and the bracket, let's say on a power pole, doesn't fit what you guys told me.
Yep.
Way more than 5 times have I had engineers instantly down here at my shop, looking at product that they sold, noticing what they need to do a little bit different, and correct it immediately.
Yeah.
Have me a bracket the following day that'll fit that boat. If you have a polling platform, we used to tell people, you got to take the polling platform off. It ain't going to work. I just installed one last week. I called you guys up, one of your engineers or somebody working in it. Brett did, one of our installers, and said, it's this high, the polling platform, it sits this far off. Boom, they gave him the bracket. The guy's got a power pole on the back of his boat and a polling platform. So it's almost like if there's ever a dilemma, it's like you're eager to get through that. You know, every challenge, it seems like y'all conquer when you do that.
Yeah. You know, and there's several ways to look at it too, and that's really, I believe, what makes it really awesome is, you know, you can come out with a big universal heavy piece that might work on several boats, but it's going to be expensive. It's going to be heavy.
Right.
It's cumbersome. You know, we've put the time and the effort in to have, I've thrown a number out here, but 50 different versions of these adapter plates.
Right.
To give you the smallest, lightest, most custom fit you can have for both your power poles on the back of the boat, on almost any boat. And, you know, that becomes difficult as boats come out every year. There's a transom change, there's a motor change, there's a jack plate change. It's just we've got a team that is on top of mounting
likes
solutions.
the challenge is what I've seen. It's never anything where I've ever been told by anybody at Power Pole with any of their products, no, we can't do it.
Yeah.
No, you can't put that on there. It's like every challenge has been conquered for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, I appreciate you coming out here today.
Man, anytime. I could sit here for a few more hours.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you and Mahoney's getting together, Power Pole, and doing all the warranty on the move. If you're in the area within 100 miles, I'm your guy. My service should be as good as them. I mean, we're working together to make sure your product's going to stand up, and I appreciate you coming out today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
All right, thanks,
really
Brandon.
Do.